Good morning, students. So we'll continue from where I left off. So yesterday we finished this program. Okay. So I explained to you about this program and I explained to you about class of array. Okay. But still, then today we'll start with this class of array and the next program, that is arrays of class object. Okay. So uh, here class of array. Now the data members of a class can be declared as class of array. We have since the beginning of this program we have already been using arrays in a class. So when the data members of a class uh, are declared as a class of array, so it can be also be declared as a class of array. Okay, so like in this particular example, class employee, here the name of the class is employee, the access specifier is private. Okay, in the class definition, here we have a normal variable, integer type, employee code, and this is character, employee name. So this is the array name. It is of character type, and then its size or index is 20. Okay, so the subscript is 20. So it can so this array can update uh, an employee name up to 20 characters long. Okay, so this is a class of array. So when the data members of a class are declared uh, as an array name, so it is called as a class of array. Okay, so what is the difference between class of array and array of class object? Okay, so these two words are different. Class of array and array of class object is different. When you say class of array, you're talking about the data members that is defined in the class. When you're talking about a array of class object, you're talking about the object which is used to access the data members and the member function. You're talking about the object, so that means you can declare the object you can declare the object as an array. Okay, so see, just as you can declare array of common data types, you can declare array of class objects. For example, this declaration creates an array of 10 employee objects. So here in this particular example, this declaration creates an array of 10 employee objects. So here the name of the class is employee, this is the object name, and you can see that here normally it would be just declared as employee emp semicolon, but here you can see that the object name is used as an array name. Okay, and then so based on that it is given as a subscript of size 10. So this means that, okay, just like if you refer to, if you're confused about it, you can refer to the class 11 chapter array, how you declared, right? In the first page itself, this format is given how you declare an array, the data type, okay, the array name, and then the index. So based on that, based on the array name, you can create different array elements, right? So here what happened is, uh, using the object you can using the object you can create, okay, uh, an array. So this object is an array. Okay, now why is this necessary? Now this, what does this mean? Now when you start entering the data in this from this object, now based on this, according to this, the size 10, okay, this does not mean that the employee name is 10, that the name of the employee is 10 characters long. No, this means that in this case the class can create 10 employee objects. Okay, so that means 10 different employees can be created by this class. So this emp will hold 10 different employees information. Okay, so this is what it means. Clear? So you see that, so instead of declaring by the class employee emp1 comma emp2 comma emp3 comma emp4, like that, okay, till emp10, just by using the array concept, okay, and writing down the subscript here, okay, so no need of writing down the lengthy program, so you can shorten down the program. And then so this signifies that the class employee can create an object of 10 employees. Clear? So that is the advantage. Clear? Now, when an array of class objects such as a EMB declares, C++ calls the class object 10 times, okay, so 10 times to input both the employee data and print them. But just keep in mind that just like an array, right, so the maximum array element that can be created here is 10, starting from EMB 0 till EMB 9. Okay, now but does not mean that the range that is given here, okay, uh, all of these array elements will be created. No, it depends on how many data values are entered by the user or on the program. Okay, so not all of the array elements may be used. Clear? But the maximum is 10 here. Now, basically an array of object is declared after the class is declared, but the declaration may be local or global. Okay, this is important. Okay, see, basically an array of object is declared, an array of object is declared after the class is declared. Okay, so after the class declaration, okay, in the main function, the array of object, but the declaration may be local or global. So it may be local in the main function, okay, or it may be global, that means before the main function, okay, or right after the header file. Okay, so when it is declared as global, or just remember, when you have a function prototype or when it is declared as global, before the program compiles, the compiler refers to the function prototype or to the global variable, right? So if you see in this particular program, then the example given below uses the previous example and declares 10 array of objects for employee input output operation. So now from this program you will see that, okay, till now what you have seen is that you are able to enter only one employee or one customer information, customer name, customer date. You are able to make some changes, manipulate, but you see that this program and this previous program, the length is almost quite same, right? But by this program you're able to enter only one employee's information, right? One employee's information and calculate his DA, HRA, like that. Okay, but in the case of this one, just by by this program and using the array of class object, that means declaring the object as an array, though the program may be quite same, but yet here you can enter 10 employees information. So just by changing that, okay, just by declaring array, so you can enter, it can hold 10 employees information. So how is it? So if you see, uh, in the first case, okay, always starting with the header files, iostream, con.io, studio.h, iomanip.h. Okay, now you will see that one more thing addition, that is this const in max equals to 10. So what is this? Declare max as a constant. Now max is a variable, the data type is int, so that's why it is storing integer value, okay, 10. Now what is this const? I've already told you in this class 11, right? Const stands for constant, right? Now what is the difference between if, now normally you can write down here like this: constant int max equals to 10 or int const max equals to 10. Okay, so either way you can change it, int const or const int, like that. Okay, so what is the difference between when you use this constant and when you do not use this constant? Now if suppose I remove this constant and it is just int max equals to 10, one more thing, that this is a global variable. Okay, so this global variable, it is, you can see that it is declared right after the it is declared and initialized right after the header file. So 10 is assigned to the variable max, so this is initialization of the variable. Okay, so this is a global variable. How do you know? Because it is before the class definition and it is before the main function execution. Okay, so this global variable, this variable value or this variable can be accessed from any part of the program provided it is called for, okay, or provided it is used. So but what is the difference between using this constant or with not using? So in the first case, if I don't use this constant and I just write int max equals to 10, okay, now this is a literal 10, we call it as a literal, right? Or we call it as integer literal, or it can be also called as integer constant. So when I say integer constant, I do not mean this constant, okay? So if I say by default, when you write int max equals to 10, it is an this 10 is a data which is an integer constant. Now if suppose this is float, the data type is float max equals to 10.0, right? Then this is a float constant or real constant. I hope you get the difference, okay? And if suppose this is character char max equals to a within single inverted quote, okay, then this will be a character constant, okay? So based on the data type, you have string constant, character constant, integer constant, uh, real constant, or integer literals, like that, okay? So if I don't include this and this is a integer constant, so what does this constant mean? How is this integer constant different from this constant keyword? Okay, so when I say integer constant, it means that this value 10, it does not change at all throughout the program, okay? So it remains constant. That means this the value 10 is which is stored in the variable max remains with this variable, stays in this max variable as 10 only throughout the program, provided the value of the max is not changed, okay? Maybe it may be that suppose if you declare simply like this, okay, towards the program the value of the max may be changed from int max equal to 10 to 20. So in that case, what will happen? A variable can store only one data, right? And variable stores the data temporarily, so the 10 will be vacated and in its place 20 will be stored. So max will change the value to 20. Now that is also an integer constant, okay? Now come back to here. Now if I write down here constant int max equals to 10, it makes a big change, okay? The integer constant and this constant keyword is very different. Integer constant means the data associated with the variable. Constant is a keyword, okay, which is which makes a variable value uh, uh, permanent, okay? So when you say constant in max equals to 10, then what happens is that this value 10, which is assigned to the variable max, will remain 10 only all throughout the program. It cannot change. Once the constant keyword is assigned, okay, then that value cannot change. Like example, constant, okay, const float pi equals to 3.142, right? So the value of pi does not change at all, right? So similarly like that, this constant, the in short form constant keyword, okay, so this fix the value 10 to this variable max. Now why are we using this global variable, okay? Why are we using this global variable? Now this global variable is used so that to give the index or the subscript for the array object, so this value is entered, okay? Now this is used whenever the object value is not assigned, okay? I'll come to that. So coming back to the class, okay, same declaration, we're using the employee class name, private access specifier, employee code. This is a class of array, employee name, employee designation, employee salary, HRA, DA, house rent, and then dearness allowance, okay? And same like that, here we have a private member function. So these are the private data members, and here we have the private member functions. So the name of this is a member function definition, okay? So this is definition. So the body of the function is written here. So DA is calculated and then it is printed out in the same function body, okay? Now after that we have another public member function. So same like that, we have in the public member functions we have this is the function prototype, so the functions are declared here. So this is different and this is different. This is the member function definition and this is the member function declaration. As you can see the difference. Okay, so the input data display, so these two are the main member functions. Okay, because this will accept the data, enter the data, and this will display the data, and this calculate HRA and calculate cross are to execute the formula. Clear? So if we come back to the main function. Okay, so in the main function you can see that here this is your class, uh, this is your class name, this is your object name. So this is your object declaration. This is where the class defines the object, right? Declares array of 10 objects of type employee. So the class name is, the class name is employee, which is actually a user defined data type. Okay, which is actually user defined data type. So which means what? If I write here int emp max, that means what? Int is a predefined data type. Now if I write here employee emp, so this employee is a user defined data type. User is defining that the name of the data type. Okay, so don't get confused on that. This is the, this object is, keep in mind that it is actually a variable. Okay, but since it is in classes and objects, so the variable name is just given a different value, the name, that is uh, object. Now in here you can see that this is within the, here the object is declared as an array. Okay, so array of class object. So here the object has index, or within the subscript the variable name max is written here. Okay, so when this variable name max is written here, then what happens is that, okay, the compiler has already referred to this local global variable, right? So in place of this max, okay, this value 10 will be assigned. Okay, that is why here the in the global variable declaration, okay, the value 10 is assigned to max, which means that, okay, which means that same to here. Okay, class employee emp 10. Okay, the size is 10. Okay, now of course directly we can write down here also employee emp 10. We can give the the index size directly, we can write here 10 also. Okay, in that case we don't need to declare the global variable. Okay, if we just write down here employee emp 10. Okay, so since we since that means since we already know that this will create 10 employees. Okay, this will create 10 employees or 10 array elements, 10 emp array elements. Okay, in that case we do not need to declare this global variable, but just so for the students to understand how global variables are used in area of by you using by through class objects. Okay, so that's why here global variable is used, global variable is declared, and global variable is assigned the value 10. Okay, so this is just for the students understanding, otherwise we can directly write down here 10 also. Okay, so once so what happens is that when this class emb is declared, okay, this object is declared, then this when the compiler comes across this variable max, it extracts the value that is max equals to 10, and in its place it stores the value here 10. Okay, so now here again the for loop. Okay, so in the for loop you can see that for int I equals to 0, okay, keep in mind that I equals to 0, I is less than max. So that means what? Here the in the for loop you can see that I has not been declared here, right? I has not been declared here, so that's why I is that declared directly in the for loop itself. That's why we are writing down the data type here. We are mentioning the data type here, so you can declare and initialize the counter variable I in here itself. That's why writing down in I. Yes, I is the counter variable, right? The counter variable is responsible for the initialization, testing the condition, and incrementing iterations, right? So here, based on this condition, I equals to 0, 0 is less than max. What is max? 10. Okay, So that's why the test condition here is based on this value. When we give I equals to 0, now if you start the loop repetition from 0 is less than 10, right? So exactly when it reaches 0 is less than 10, that means when it starts incrementing I plus plus 0 1 2 3 4, the final value that will come here is 9 is less than 10, true, right? Again, when it becomes I plus plus 9 plus 1 10, it will become 10 is less than 10, which becomes false. So by the time this test condition becomes false, the you have entered 10 employees information. You will have entered 10 employees information. If suppose you make this, suppose the value of I equals to 1, okay, if you make the value of I equals to 1, in that case it will be I is less than equals to 10. Okay, in that case, when I gets incremented to 10, so 10 is less than equals to 10, which is true. Once it becomes 11, 11 is less than equals to 10, which is false. So what, when you change the value of I to 1, and so here even the test condition should change from I is less than to I is less than equals to max. Okay, but we know that in an array, the array element always starts, the array index always starts with 0. That's why in a for loop, we always, the counter variable always starts initialization by 0, and keep in mind initialization is done only once. Okay, so in the body of the for loop, okay, we have the object, okay, so the counter variable, okay, dot, using dot operator, input data. So this is the calling function. The calling function is calling this part of the program, right? So you can see that I've already taught you in I've already taught you in the array chapter, right? So how we use the variable name, okay, along with the counter variable to enter the data, right? So in this case also, when emb I, that means emb 0, so that means the first array element, emb 0 dot input data, right? So that means you are entering, emb 0 signifies the first array element, that is the first employee's information. Okay, so emb 0, this is the calling function. So the compiler will temporarily come out of the main function and go and search of this uh, call function. So here's the call function. Okay, yeah, like I said, you use the class name and the scope resolution operator, okay, to access the function body. So here you are able to enter the employee information, employee code, in seeing employee code, employee name, gets, okay, to accept a string of characters with white spaces, okay, and then employee designation, employee salary, okay. Then after that, close the bracket, it reaches the end of the braces, and then control comes back again to the main function. So here again, uh, again after that, inputs 10 employee information. So how many times this will go, this will repeat 10 times. That means by so that means as long as this for loop condition is true, okay, as long as this for loop condition is true, in the first case it was just emp 0, right? After that, I gets incremented, I equal to 0 plus 1 1, 1 is less than 10, yes. Again, uh, in the body of the for loop, okay, emb1, so emb1 dot input data, again it comes back here, okay, it comes back here and then it executes. So enter the employee code. In the first case, if suppose the employee code was 100, now you'll be entering the employee code 101. Okay, if the employee name was supposed like Rahul, so the second employee name will be supposed like Rohit, like that. Okay, so like I said, as long as this test condition is true, this calling function will keep on executing and it will call this call function. So that way you can enter 10 employees information one at a time. Okay, so this calling function, so you can see that, okay. So you can see that this single line of code, is actually doing a lot of work. Okay, this is the calling function. So you can see that this using this calling function, you can execute that function body again and again 10 times. So you are able to enter 10 employees information, okay, by this for loop. Okay, so you see that just by 2 lines you are able to execute a load. Now again, after this set statement becomes false, so like 10 is less than 10, false, then control comes back to the next for loop, and in the next for loop, okay, again the same test condition. Okay, so because you have to print out 10 times now, right? So that's why this test condition is same. So emb in here, emb I, since I equals 0, emb 0 dot display, so this will execute this function body and it will display the information: emp code, emb name, emb designation, emb salary, dearest allowance, and then calculate da. So it will calculate the da, and then uh, yes, the calculate da. So this calculate da is a private member function, so that's why this private member function is written within the public member function. Yesterday and day before yesterday also I explained to you about this, right? Okay, so I hope you have understood. So this private member function, since it is inaccessible by the object, okay, and since all the data members are inaccessible by the object, so using the public member function only you can access. And this private member function is the function is defined here in within the class definition only. So that formula will be executed and cout will display this uh, the dearness allowance of the first employee, emb 0. Okay, so the first employee's information has been displayed. Now after that, okay, this second case, embi, so emb 0 calculate hra. Now the first employee's house rent allowance we have to calculate. So this is the calling function, it calls this function body. Okay, so this function body will execute and then it will calculate the house rent allowance and display the house rent allowance. Then control comes back to here, again it executes the emp I. Now keep in mind that I is still 0, so emp 0 dot calculate gross. So we calculate the gross salary. So this calling function will call this call function. Okay, so that way again, keep in mind this is this is a public member function. Okay, we have declared here, see, public, this is a public member function. That is why the class name employee is written here using the scope resolution operator. Why we use the scope resolution operator? Because here the member functions are just declared, and since the member function body is defined outside of the class and outside of the main, so we have to use the scope resolution operator, right? So in this body, a long double gross, okay, and then gross equals to emp salary plus